live. What is going on, everybody? Patrick says, "What's up, KJK? How you doing?" Doing all right, man. Hope you're doing good. Ready to get into this slate. We just got some big news that that Malcolm Brogdon was ruled out. Obviously, that's a very big piece of news. We also got some news that Jeremy Lamb has entered health and safety protocol. So those are two guards that are now going to be ruled out for the Indiana Pacers, which we'll talk about in this first game. Should give a big bump up to Karis LeVert, Chris Duarte, Justin Holiday, as well as some guys off the bench, maybe a Torrey Craig. But most notably, Chris Duarte, Karis LeVert, Justin Holiday, all going to get a big bump up here in this Charlotte, Indiana game. So that's the first big piece of news that we certainly need to talk about. And yeah, I mean, that's obviously going to make those guys much more tremendous plays. The Charlotte Hornets have been terrible defensively all season long. So certainly going to like targeting all of these Pacers guys with no Brogdon, Sabonis, Karis LeVert, Miles Turner, all going to get bumps up in usage. And like I said, the biggest beneficiary that I would say with Jeremy Lamb going down and Malcolm Brogdon being ruled out is Chris Duarte here. As far as his overall production on the season, pulling up the Indiana Pacers roster on my sheets here, we can see that Malcolm Brogdon putting up 1.1 DK points per minute. You take him out of the equation. Obviously, that's going to make this guy produce at an even higher rate. He's putting up 0.82 DK points per minute on the season. And like I said, when you're taking Jeremy Lamb out of the equation as well, there's going to be a few other guys that are going to get a few minutes to play. I'm not exactly sure which one of those guys I'm looking to the most here. I will discover that as I'm continuing to update my projections and all that stuff and let you guys know. But I can promise you one thing. Chris Duarte becomes a much more better play. And Justin Holiday, a guy that traditionally doesn't produce at the highest rate, could become a guy that could very quickly put up a very big game here. Although we're not accustomed to seeing him, like I said, produce at the highest rate, only 0.65 DK points per minute. It's another guy that could climb here. And then I don't really see anyone else available off this Indiana Pacers bench from a guard perspective too much. I'm just trying to break that down on my brain here. I mean, Dwayne Washington, we could possibly see step up and play some more minutes as well. Looking at his statistics on the season, he's been producing at a pretty high rate, 0.81 DK points per minute over 17-minute sample size, though. So not the largest sample size in the world here. I would mainly be focusing in on, of course, Karis LeVert, Domantas Sabonis, Chris Duarte, Miles Turner, and Justin Holiday now, with there being no Jeremy Lamb. There's no TJ McConnell either, though. So like I said, maybe we see Torrey Craig play a bunch of minutes. And if that's the case, Torrey Craig putting up 0.78 DK points per minute, he's only a 3-1 salary. So I kind of think that's where we're headed here. I think Torrey Craig's going to get a lot more minutes in this particular spot, and he's only 3-1 on DraftKings. I think he could be a pretty sneaky value that maybe not everyone's quite talking about now. There's no Jeremy Lamb. There's no Malcolm Brogdon. I think you see Torrey Craig step up and play a pretty sizable amount of minutes here. And like I said, at only a 3-1 price tag on DraftKings, I do think that he's a pretty intriguing value play that we could be looking to. Last time out, 22 minutes, 17 DraftKings points. The time before, 18 minutes, 18 DraftKings points. If we see him play in the upper 20s or so, at a 3-1 price tag, he could very easily surpass that. So that's kind of my live reaction to that news. We are still waiting on the Marcus Smart news. That's the biggest piece of news we're waiting on this slate. And then, of course, with the protocols, we could be dealing with some other stuff. But, yeah, Charlotte, Indiana, certainly going to have a lot of interest in this game. It's an up-tempo game. Running it back on the other side, they continue to be out without Miles Bridges. So Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball, Kelly Oubre, all going to get a bump up in their respective usage. And being that the game's expected to stay close, I do think LaMelo Ball is a pretty intriguing pay-up option, someone that I haven't been too high on the last few times out just because I've expected blowouts. He was somewhat limited returning from the health and protocols list the first game, so he's played 25 and 25 the last couple times out. I think this is the spot we see him climb back up to the high 30s, but that's, of course, speculation. We'll have to be keeping our eyes on the rotation as these games go along. Kelly Oubre, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, all priced in the mid to low 6K range. All should get a pretty sizable bump with there being no Miles Bridges, all of which are, definitely intriguing plays. Terry Rozier specifically has been playing very, very good. Putting up 35, 32, 44 DraftKings points if you want to go there. And we already talked about it, but Chris Duarte is certainly going to be the guy that's getting the biggest bump up on the Indiana side, with there being no Jeremy Lamb and now no Malcolm Brogdon. The New York Knicks taking on the Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham is confirmed as being out. They're already without Jeremiah Grant. Derek Walton should continue to see the start at the point guard position. The problem is Derek Walton just really doesn't produce at a high rate whatsoever. Pulling up the Detroit Pistons roster here on my sheet as far as how he's fared on the season. Derek Walton Jr. only putting up 0.61 DK points per minute, so I'm really not getting too intrigued to play him. There are a couple guys I'm getting pretty excited to be playing, though. The very first one's going to be Hamidou Diallo, priced at 62 on DraftKings, putting up 0.87 DK points per minute. Very high rate of production, and his price tag hasn't been adjusted for all these injuries to go up high enough, in my opinion. He's put up 28, 31, and 39 DraftKings points, playing in the mid-30s to upper 30s each of these games. And I certainly think that he's going to make a bunch of sense on this slate tonight at a 62 price tag, so he's someone that I would be looking to get in your lineups tonight on the Pistons side. The other guys that I'd be looking to on the Detroit Pistons, of course, Saddiq Bey at 7.9. I think he's a pretty good play. The problem is his price tag just continues to climb. Like, I'd much rather play Diallo at a 6.2 price tag. Saddiq Bey at 7.9. Do I think there's some other guys that are priced in this range that are probably better options? Yes. I mean, he's a respectable option, but I'm not getting too excited to go there. And then as far as anyone else, Frank Jackson at 5.3 is a reason to play if you want to go there. Once again, he's just kind of priced in no man's land, though. Could Frank Jackson go out there and get you 40 DraftKings points? Yes. Is he very scoring reliant? Yes. So probably not going to be too excited to go there. The next guy that I'd be excited to be playing is going to be Luke Garza. All the way down 3.5. We saw him only play 20 minutes last time out because he got in foul trouble. He was able to put up 31 DraftKings points, and he's still only 3.5. That's way too cheap. At that 3.5 price tag, he's putting up 0.93 DK points per minute on the season over a 20-game sample size, 189 minutes. So, it's not a small sample size. We know Luke Garza produces at a very high rate. The only thing I would say is stopping him is him staying out of foul trouble. But at this 3.5 price tag, that's way too cheap. So I certainly have a lot of interest in him. Running it back on the other side, as far as the New York Knicks, I'm not really too intrigued to play anyone from these guys. I mean, they're starting to get healthy now. The minutes are all over the place. They're spreading the minutes thin. We saw these guys play all over the place. Julius Randle's really the only one that's getting solidified minutes, and his price tag continues to be 2 up. I warned everyone about Kemba Walker last time out. I was worried about his minutes being cut into. He still played 33 minutes, so that wasn't necessarily the worst issue. He was playing like 40 the times before, but still just a little concerned about his usage not being quite as high with all these guys returning. I'm probably going to continue to not really play anyone on the New York Knicks side. That would be my approach. You have Obi Toppin down here at 3.6. You can maybe take a risk on. We've seen Kevin Knox produce at some pretty high rates the last couple times out, putting up 30 and 22 DraftKings points as a 3-3 punt if you want to go there. But once again, not getting too excited about it personally myself. LA Clippers taking on the Boston Celtics. Going to be the next game on the slate. There is no Paul George. There is no Jason Tatum. Reggie Jackson listed as questionable now. He was upgraded to doubtful after being ruled out. So whatever that means, maybe he returns. But I'm not expecting him to. On the Boston side, Dennis Schroeder continues to be out. Ennis Freedom continues to be out. The biggest piece of news we're waiting on is the Marcus Smart news. If Marcus Smart is indeed ruled out again, that is going to automatically make us have a lot of interest in Peyton Pritchard at 5K. He's played phenomenal the last 2 times he stepped in as a starter. At 5K, I would still want to have interest in him. Josh Richardson returning at 4.9 as well, but he could be somewhat limited in his minutes due to, the conditioning period of returning from the protocols list. So not sure he's going to be at full capacity in this one. So Josh Richardson would be a good play, but I'm not getting too excited there. On the Clippers side of things, Brandon Boston Jr. did get ruled out. So I do think we could see Amir Coffey and Justice Winslow possibly get a few more minutes here, which could go a long way at their respective price tags. Justice Winslow is only 3.5. And when pulling up the LA Clippers and Boston squads on my sheets, we can see that Winslow's a pretty good fantasy point per minute producer. So priced at 3.5, putting up 0.90 DK points per minute on the season is pretty respectable. And once again, with there being no Brandon Boston, I do think you might see a little bit of a step up in minutes here. The same for Amir Coffey. Problem with Amir Coffey is he only puts up about 0.62 DK points per minute. So he's not quite as good of a fantasy point producer. So for that reason, I'm not getting quite as excited to play him as I am Justice Winslow. I think if Justice Winslow could get up there in the mid-20s, he could have a really solid game. Last time we saw him do that, he played 26 minutes, put up 24 DraftKings points at a 3.5 price tag. If he could do that, you would be pretty happy with that in your tournament lineups. Obviously, you're hoping for more if possible, but definitely a good place to start with Justice Winslow there on the Clippers side. And then on the Boston side, like I said, the Marcus Smart news is certainly big if he's ruled out Peyton Pritchard, and that would just become that much more usage for Al Horford, Robert Williams, and Jaylen Brown as well. If he's ruled in, they all kind of take a cut. They're not quite as good plays as they would be, so that's kind of the approach there. On the LA Clippers side of things, they do continue to have these guys playing starters, minutes getting a lot of usage. So if you want to go there. Another guy you could possibly look into is a Romeo Langford on Boston, but I wouldn't get too intrigued. He's only putting up about 0.61 DK points per minute, so it's probably going to be a no from me. And on the LA Clippers side of things, you could play an Eric Bledsoe. You could play a Terrence Mann, a Luke Kennard, all priced in the mid-range. I would limit my exposure to, either one or two of these guys because they're not going to be able to all get you there in your tournament lineups. The number one candidate that's playing the best as of late seems to be Marcus Morris Sr. at 5'4". He's put up 41, 35, and 40 DraftKings points, taking on his former team in the Boston Celtics. So maybe that's a little bit of added motivation for him. But other than that, not getting too excited to play anyone of the Clippers. I'm actually really surprised by Marcus Morris's recent output. That's pretty impressive. And Nicholas Batum continues to be out, so his minutes are solidified. So he might be my favorite play on the LA Clippers side with all that stuff factored in. Atlanta taking on Chicago. Trae Young should continue to be an absolute usage beast in this one, starting off the top with him because the Atlanta Hawks are dealing with many, many injuries here. John Collins, DeLon Wright, Bogdanovich now out, Porter, Gallinari, Gorgie Jang now ruled out as well. So that is actually a bit interesting piece of news as well. Now they're without Gorgie Jang, which give a big bump up to other guys in this rotation. So when breaking that down as far as who I'm going to be looking to, we saw Chauncey Brown play a ton of minutes last time out. I think he continues to play a bunch of minutes. He played 30 minutes. He has really not produced at a high rate whatsoever on the season, unfortunately. So that part of the equation we're not getting. But what we are getting is the minutes. And like I said, looking at his overall production on the season, he's putting up 0.47 DK points per minute, which is really, really bad. But he's playing 30-plus minutes, so possibly looking to him. With there being no Gorgie Jang now, I'm interested to see who kind of steps up and takes on those minutes. We have Malcolm Hill, Lance Stevenson, Wesley Iwundu, Cat Barber, all of which names I'm sure many of you haven't even heard of, which I don't blame you. And names we really don't have a sample size on as far as their fantasy point per minute production. So going to be a little bit difficult, but one thing I can tell you is that Cam Reddish becomes a phenomenal play at 6'2" as well, 0.86 DK points per minute. His production should go up even more. Trae Young, all the usages are going to be flowing through him. 1.41 DK points per minute. If the game stays close, it's going to be on the back of Trae Young. So at 11K, he's going to be, obviously the main usage candidate, the biggest upside, the guy that I'm really certainly looking to be targeting in my lineups because the fact of the matter is, without him, they're really nothing right now. So they really need Trae Young to step up here. And if he doesn't, this game's probably going to turn into a blowout very quickly. So if you're playing anyone on the Bulls side, I'd probably recommend running it back with Trae Young if at all possible. Skylar Mays at 3.7 could possibly finally get the big minutes that we've been trying to get out of him for quite some time now as a value play as well, if you'd like to go there. He produces at a pretty high rate on the season. Looking at his fantasy point per minute production, he's putting up 0.81 DK points per minute on the season, so that's really, really good stuff. If he could just get some minutes, which now with there being no Bogdanovich, I tend to think they're kind of forced into starting Skylar May and giving him some more minutes. So he's certainly someone at a 3.7 price tag that I would not have any issues with playing. Anytime we've seen him play like 20-plus minutes, he has produced at a pretty high rate, and he is only 3.7. So that is pretty good stuff there out of Mays. And for that reason, I do think he is a valid value play on the slate tonight. Running it back on the Chicago side, it's pretty easy to be honest. It's Zach LaVine, it's DeMar DeRozan, it's Nikola Vucevic. I don't think you really need to get cute with anyone else. The problem is the price tags have gone way up. So Nikola Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan probably my favorite two candidates based upon the price tag. I think Zach LaVine's a phenomenal play, but at 10-1, I think he's kind of gotten priced up enough to where I'd rather just take the discount, the $400 or $500, $600 down to a Vucevic or DeMar DeRozan, and I think it's more likely that they outperform their price tags than Zach LaVine does. So that would kind of be my approach there, and who I'm looking to in this game. LA Lakers taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. LeBron James listed as questionable. He is more so probable, so I'd expect him to be able to go, and he should be one of the top plays on the slate for me. He's gotten priced way up, but regardless, there's no Anthony Davis. His usage is really, really high. There's plenty of value plays on the slate, that some of which we've talked about already, some of which we will continue to talk about. And as we go along the slate, because it should just be pretty easy to be paying up for some of these options. And I do think that LeBron James should still be a priority in your lineups. He's taken on the Memphis Grizzlies, who have been really bad defensively all season long. This game comes in with a big total, a 225.5 over-under with a 6-point spread in favor of the Memphis Grizzlies. So expected to kind of run up the total. Both teams dealing with injuries. Both teams I'm going to have quite a bit of interest in targeting. It starts with LeBron James, of course, at the top. Russell Westbrook is number 2 at 10.5. We finally saw him pay off his price tag in some sort of way the last game out, putting up 60 DraftKings points, dropping a triple-double. Of course, Russell Westbrook's going to have that triple-double upside every time he takes the floor, so I do think that that's certainly something that's viable to be targeting, and there should be plenty of value to go along with it, like I said. So those two guys can start off at the top. My favorite value plays on the LA Lakers, we continue to see Carmelo Anthony play a lot of minutes. We continue to see Malik Monk play a lot of minutes. So I do think that those two guys are pretty intriguing plays. Malik Monk at 4K specifically, especially if he continues to start. We've seen him play 35 and 40 minutes, and he has produced at a very high rate, putting up 32 and 38 DraftKings points, and his price tag has actually decreased by 100. So I do think that Malik Monk's a pretty phenomenal play on this slate tonight, especially when you're factoring in the Memphis Grizzlies defense. Avery Bradley at 3.6 playing quite a bit of minutes as well. He just doesn't produce at the highest rate. If you want to take a risk on him, I wouldn't call you crazy, but keep in mind we also got confirmation that Wayne Ellington is available in this game. And for that reason, we kind of got to keep our eyes on the starting lineup, because if Wayne Ellington's back in there, that could really throw some things off. I kind of think Malik Monk's earned his spot in the starting lineup. They're going to stick with him. That's just kind of, you would tend to think, because he's been producing and they need scoring, and Malik Monk's been scoring. Taylor Horton-Tucker wasn't really shooting the ball that well, and then you pull up Malik Monk. They have a good distributor out there in LeBron James who needs a little bit of helping. He's dropped 20 and 25 real-life points the last 2 times. So I tend to think they're going to keep him in that starting unit with the extra scoring kick that he provides. And on the Memphis side of things, Ja Morant's going to continue to be a phenomenal play. There is no Dillon Brooks. He's going to have a high usage. Once again, the Lakers have been terrible defensively. I'm not scared of either of these teams defensively. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane also both really stand out to me in the mid to low 6K range. So I'd be really focusing on those guys in my lineups on the Grizzlies side. Steven Adams continuing to play right around 30 minutes as well. Could become a pretty phenomenal play for you at 5K. I'm just a little concerned with the way the Lakers have been playing. They've been going kind of small with LeBron at the 5 all of a sudden. Maybe Steven Adams doesn't quite get the run he usually gets in this game. Maybe we see those minutes file down to a more agile guy like a Brandon Clark or something. But, yeah, that would be my approach here. The other guy that was getting some big minutes on the Grizzlies is John Conchar, but he's ruled out. So now that that's the case, Kyle Anderson could be seeing some more minutes. I'm a little bit scared to play Kyle Anderson. They seem to be very reluctant to play him a lot of minutes. Even when guys are out, they're still only playing him like right around 20 minutes. I tend to think that trend continues, so probably don't want to go to Kyle Anderson myself. If you want to go there, I wouldn't call you crazy. But he's probably one of those guys that grades out decent that I'm going to be fading, because I just don't trust that they're really going to want to give him the minutes that he, people probably think he's going to get. And if he's going to have a bunch of ownership, I will most likely be underweight on Mr. Kyle Anderson. So that would be my approach on him. And yeah, so I don't know. He's only 4.6. He does grade out pretty respectable in my projections. At a 4.6 price tag. I've got him projected to play 27 minutes. He's been playing right around the low 20s. If he does, he puts up 1 DK point per minute. He's tough, man. He is tough, especially if Jaren Jackson Jr. gets in foul trouble, which he's notorious for. Maybe he gets some more minutes, so I don't know. I'm going to have to make a decision on Mr. Kyle Anderson. I'm a little bit scared to go there myself, but maybe I end up doing it. Oklahoma City taking on the Phoenix Suns. Next game on the slate. DeAndre Ayton continues to be out. That is going to make Mr. JaVale McGee a pretty intriguing play at 5-1. He only played 22 minutes last time out, but he did end up fouling out of that game, similar to Luke Garza, who we talked about earlier on the slate. I do think that those two guys at the center position are pretty good values over here on DK tonight. So, two guys that I would certainly be willing to be playing in my lineups. In JaVale McGee, being very popular last time out, maybe his letdown makes his ownership a little bit lower than it should be. Only problem is this game's really not expected to stay close. We just got confirmation that Josh Richardson will indeed play. So that Celtics game, we know Josh Richardson is in now. So that's obviously a big piece of news. Still waiting on the Marcus Smart news, though. So that will certainly impact our lineups. But, yeah, JaVale McGee going to be a phenomenal value play, especially if his ownership's low because of that letdown. The only problem is this game is expected to be a blowout. It's a 14.5-point spread in favor of the Phoenix Suns. The question is, do they roll out JaVale McGee during the blowout run? I'm not too sure that they do. One guy that I would be willing to look to in the blowout run would be Jalen Smith at 3-4, pulling up the Phoenix Suns roster on my sheet here as far as the overall production from them on the season. And the Oklahoma City Thunder. And looking at Mr. Jalen Smith, we can see that on a permanent basis, he does produce at a 1.02 DK point per minute clip. That's over a 12-game sample size, 116 minutes. And I do think that if this game turns into a blowout, we could see some Jalen Smith run. So for that reason, at a 3-4 price tag, I do have some interest in Jalen Smith here. He has center eligibility, power forward eligibility. And we just got confirmation that Marcus Smart was ruled out. So that is some big news. So that means we can go ahead and fire up Mr. Peyton Pritchard. Again, on the Boston side of things, he's going to be a phenomenal play. He's priced at $5K. He did get a price tag increase from only 4.3 last time, but last time he put up 46 DraftKings points. If he goes out there and puts up 46 DraftKings points for you at a $5K price tag, you are going to be very, very pleased. I think he's a phenomenal play. I think that Jaylen Brown gets a big bump up now as well. Al Horford, Robert Williams, all these guys should get a big bump up. I would have a lot of interest in Josh Richardson if we had confirmation he wasn't going to be limited after returning from the health and safety protocols. So he's someone I might try a little bit lighter on, but the rest of this Boston roster just got a big bump up with their being on Marcus Smart, so that's a big piece of news there. Resuming this Oklahoma City Phoenix game, really probably not going to be getting too much exposure to the pay-up options here. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think this game's pretty much guaranteed to turn into a blowout with the way things are going right now. 14.5-point spread. The Oklahoma City Thunder are completely depleted. One thing they did last time out, though, was spread their minutes really thin with all these 10-day contract guys. So I'm even scared to play the Oklahoma City Thunder guys, to be honest with you. Derek Favors is returning now after missing last game out. So I did have some interest in Isaiah Roby at only 3K price tag. Now I don't trust this Oklahoma City rotation. We saw just all these guys play a bunch of minutes spread out. I'd say if I had to play one guy as a value play, it would probably be Aaron Wiggins at 3-3. He grades out as a pretty respectable play for me. Plays 32 and 26 minutes the last 2 times out. He's put up 33 and 24 DraftKings points at only a 3-3 price tag. I do think that he might be a respectable play. And then, like I said, running it back on the other side with the Phoenix Suns, Jalen Smith, JaVale McGee, I think would be my 2 favorite options. We saw Jalen Smith play 29 minutes last time out. He put up 28 DraftKings points when JaVale McGee got in foul trouble. There's multiple ways for him to get there if JaVale McGee gets a foul trouble again or if this game turns into a blowout. I do think that Jalen Smith is a pretty intriguing option for those reasons. So, yeah, that'd be what I'm looking to in that game. Utah taking on Portland. Damian Lillard is going to continue to get a bunch of usage as long as there's no CJ McCollum. At 10-6, I do think he's a decent pay-up option. This game comes with a 228 over-under. Problem is, I don't really trust the Trailblazers to keep any game close. They kind of cost me the other night with not keeping the game close with the Dallas Mavericks because I had Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, he still had a phenomenal game. But point being, if you need players on both sides to have big games, you need the game to stay close. And they seem to be struggling to be able to do that. So Damian Lillard's obviously going to be the main candidate that if the game stays close, he's going to be the reason that it does, most likely. On the Portland side, you could be taking a look to a Norman Powell as well. There's no Dennis Smith Jr. Nazir Little continues to see big minutes at 5K. He's put up 33, 48 the last couple times out. We were really getting used to playing him in the low 4K range, so it's a little bit weird seeing that 5K next to his name. But the fact of the matter remains similar to Peyton Pritchard. He's been producing at that rate. So, I mean, if you want to go to Nazir Little, I certainly think it makes sense looking at his permanent production on the season. At this 5K price tag, he's been putting up 0.87 DK points per minute. So I certainly think that Nazir Little is still a viable candidate. Larry Nance Jr. as well at the 5.4 price tag, 0.84 DK points per minute, is a viable candidate to those two guys. Going to be really playing a lot of minutes as long as there's no Robert Covington and Yusuf Nurkic. If the game stays close once again, there is a solid chance that these two guys have pretty phenomenal games at their price tag. So those would kind of be the guys I'm looking to. On the Utah side, we just got confirmation that Reggie Jackson's out, so I'm not surprised by that, but just so you guys know. On the Utah side, Rudy Gobert, there continues to be no Donovan Mitchell, so I think his upside's up a little bit more, but with no Donovan Mitchell, I think the main candidates are Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, Bogdanovich, and Joe Ingles. I'd recommend you limiting your exposure here, probably picking one or two of these guys. The direct correlation as far as who it's impacting the most is Jordan Clarkson and Mike Conley. We saw Jordan Clarkson drop 43 DraftKings points last time out. Mike Conley at 6'6", priced up a little bit more at 41.30. So Jordan Clarkson, with there being no Donovan Mitchell, is definitely the most impacted guy alongside Joe Ingles, I would say. Joe Ingles, 32 minutes, only 25 DraftKings points at only a 4K price tag, taking on a Portland squad that's terrible defensively. And I believe if I pull up my defensive three-point accuracy sheet here, giving you guys a little bit of a sneak peek of some Patreon content, my premium content package, if you aren't familiar, you can head on over here and become a KJK DFS premium member. I offer all sorts of benefits in the NBA DFS package, $19.99 a month. I'm also offering the KJK DFS Discord for only $1 during the month of December to give back during the holiday season. You get premium NBA projections, NBA data sheets, player stats, team stats, play contact stats, my core plays, and NBA Discord chat access. And giving you a sneak peek of one of those sheets right here, my defensive shooting accuracy sheet, we can see that the Portland Trailblazers have been allowing a lot of three-pointers to be made. They are 29th in the league in all three-pointers allowed. That's obviously going to bode very well. And I know that the Utah Jazz are one of the top teams in the league at three-point shooting, as a matter of fact. So this matchup could be a really great one to be targeting some Utah Jazz three-point shooters. I certainly would encourage you to get some exposure to the Utah Jazz three-point shooters. And it should be fairly easy for them to get there at their respective price tags. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me to be targeting some Utah Jazz three-point shooters for sure on this slate tonight. And that is kind of what my approach would be there. So one more game left on the slate, guys, here. We have Dallas taking on Sacramento as far as the overall total in this game. Luka Doncic listed as out, so Kristaps Porzingis, Jalen Brunson going to continue to be good plays. We saw two guys on the Dallas Mavericks go to the COVID list today. Those two guys being Brandon Knight and Willie Cauley-Stein, I believe. But Brandon Knight's been playing like right around 21 to 24 minutes. I do think that that's going to open up quite a bit of minutes for Josh Green at 3-2, who we've seen produce at a pretty high rate. He played 26 minutes last time out. He put up 32 DraftKings points at only a 3-2 price tag. I think that Josh Green becomes pretty interesting here. Looking at the Dallas side of things, as far as how they've produced on a permanent basis on the season. Pulling up Dallas, let's see here. Josh Green at 3-2. He's putting up 0.88 DK points per minute, so he's a very good fantasy point per minute producer. And I do think that he's going to see more minutes as well as Sterling Brown. So both those guys could maybe become better intriguing plays. But obviously, Jalen Brunson, Kristaps Porzingis are the two guys. I mean, I just think their usage is going to be through the roof here. So, but Josh Green at 3-2, phenomenal play, I think. And then Kristaps Porzingis and Jalen Brunson both become very interesting for top upside plays. On the Sacramento side, they're starting to get healthy to where I'm not getting as intrigued. Halliburton continues to play like a bunch of minutes, though, and produces at a very high rate, 52, 42, 52 DraftKings points. His price tag's going down. He's 8.6. He's probably a little bit of a sneakier option that people aren't quite thinking about anymore. He's still producing at a really phenomenal rate here. So I do think that that is a good play there. And Rashawn Holmes returning at 5.5. We finally saw his minutes go up a little bit, but they're kind of splitting those minutes between him, Tristan Thompson, Rashawn Holmes, May2. This Kings rotation, I'm just really not liking all that much, to be honest with you. Terrence Davis playing like right around 20 minutes as well. I don't really think I'm not interested in targeting the Kings when we have so many other teams that are shorthanded. So that would be my overall approach for this slate, guys. If you have any questions in the chat, please do let me know. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the stream. Do greatly appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. I'm going to be hanging out here for another 20 minutes or so, answering any questions you guys have. If you do have questions, you can also check out the sponsor of the program if you're not familiar, Parlay Play. Head on over here, use the link down below in the description or code KJK003 when you sign up today to get a free $50 deposit match, and you also get a free $10 risk-free in entries. How this works, you can head on over to Parlay Play, sign up, create your account using that link or the code KJK003, and you can go ahead and start picking your picks. I like to do Parlay Points, which is Parlay Play's format of fantasy points. And you can use really all the data that we've gone over so far on the stream. So, like, for instance, I think that John Morant's usage is going to be way up with all these guys being out. 37.5 parlay points. I wouldn't hate that. LeBron James, as far as his parlay points line, 44.5. I think LeBron scores, 45 pretty easily tonight. But there's also quite a bit of lines over here that we can really take advantage of because those are respectable lines. I find that I can find some that are really, really low based upon the injury news. So let's try to find I always try to kind of do that for you guys live on the stream. Pacers take it on Hornets. So we got confirmation that there is indeed no Jeremy Lamb or Malcolm Brogdon. That means Karis LeVert's going to be, he's at 27.5. And I did say Chris Duarte is going to get a big bump up. His is only at 18.5. I think taking the over on Chris Duarte could be pretty interesting. And then running it back on the other side with maybe like a Terry Rozier. He's at 28.5 parlay points. Gordon Hayward is at 27.5. And LaMelo Ball is at 38.5. I wouldn't hate that at all. So maybe running it back with like a Chris Duarte and a LaMelo Ball over here on Parlay Play would not be a bad idea. And check them out. Who do you like more tonight on DK, Ja or Trey? That is a good question, my friend. I really like both of them, Brian, to be honest with you. I think it depends upon your roster construction, which ones you can get to. And also, if you think the game's going to stay close with this Atlanta Hawks game. Because obviously, if the game doesn't stay close, Trae Young's not going to have his full upside. I think that this Memphis Grizzlies LA Lakers game stays close no matter what. So, I mean, if you're predicting blowouts every night, you're probably trying to drive yourself insane. So I wouldn't suggest it too much. But I do tend to try to kind of trust my better judgment when it comes to that because it can help with your lineups. So for me, I think I would lean towards going with John Morant strictly for the upside at his price tag. He's 8.8. Trae Young's 11K. I think that there's a pretty solid chance that John Morant could match him tonight in scoring output. So for that reason, I would go John Morant. And that is why. And the Lakers have also just been terrible defensively. They've been that bad. They're on a back-to-back. They should have tired legs. So I like John Morant quite a bit tonight. Joshua says, Robinson or Adams on DK? I don't know which Robinson you're talking about, to be honest with you. Robinson. Mitchell Robinson, I would assume that you're talking about. And if I had to pick between those two guys, I don't know. Mitchell Robinson's finally getting some solid minutes. He might be someone that I was overlooking a little bit, to be honest with you. I'd probably go with Mitchell Robinson. If he's getting this allotment of minutes, 30 and 32 minutes, I like Mitchell Robinson a lot. But the Knicks rotation, it's not like we can trust them. I really don't trust the Knicks when it comes to their rotation and it being consistent. So, unless there's just some news I'm missing. I mean, Nerlens Noel is out, and maybe they cut the minutes of Taj Gibson. Maybe that's what's going on there. Taj Gibson. Yeah, Taj Gibson's playing a lot less minutes. All right, so yeah, I don't hate Mitchell Robinson. I'd probably go with, of those two, Mitchell Robinson, because the Lakers have been playing small ball. So I think that Steven Adams' minutes could be in some trouble here with LeBron starting at the 5. It's kind of weird. Time of Life says FanDuel overview. Yeah, I'm going to go over FanDuel real quick for my FanDuel people. The very first thing that I'll say over here on FanDuel is that Karis LeVert is extremely underpriced. He's 6'6". There's no Malcolm Brogdon. There's no Jeremy Lamb. He's just very easy to be locking in your lineups. FanDuel is making it very easy on you. He's a pretty good play on DraftKings as well, but they've got him priced way up, so it's not quite as easy. So Karis LeVert grades out as a phenomenal play over here. Another guy that grades out as a good play, which I like him on both websites, is going to be Cam Reddish. With the Hawks no longer having Bogdanovich, he should have an even bigger bump up in usage. We talked about Trae Young, Cam Reddish, underpriced, 5'4", going to be a phenomenal play on FanDuel. So I like him quite a bit. Some other guys, let's just do a little bit of a position by position here. So at the center position, I mean, Kristaps is going to be continuing to see a lot of usage. Like I said, Domantas Sabonis, Nikola Vucevic should both get a lot of usage. Those two guys, I think, are pretty good. Marcus Morris to see his minutes limit increased Wednesday. We just got confirmation on that as well. So I was talking about liking Marcus Morris anyways. He's been playing quite a few minutes as is, and now they're saying his quote-unquote minutes limit is gone. So Marcus Morris is a pretty solid play tonight on this slate. So that's something to take note of here. Clint Capella with the Atlanta Hawks being shorthanded should get more usage, and now they no longer have Gorgie Jang to back him up. He's only playing 26, 27 minutes, like mid-20s. I feel like they have to push him more minutes now. I mean, to keep this game close. So I think Clint Capella could be an interesting tournament option that maybe people aren't going to. Miles Turner, Al Horford now that there's no Marcus Smart. A lot of really solid options in that range, honestly. JaVale McGee is a good solid play, but he's the only center you can play, so he's a good value. But if he doesn't play a lot of minutes, that's a little bit scary on a site like FanDuel where you really need your center to hit it. Luka Garza, same can be said to him. He's a good play. He produces at a high rate. He put up 29 FanDuel points in only 20 minutes last time and getting foul trouble. He's a lot easier to click that button on DraftKings where he's only 3.5 though, so he's a respectable play, but not quite as much of a lock over here on FanDuel. Those are some center options I'd be going to. Small forward, DeMar DeRozan and Jaylen Brown, phenomenal pay options, as well as LeBron James. Those three guys. Karis LeVert's going to be a really good play now. We just talked about Marcus Morris. He's getting his minutes limit lifted now, so he should get a full amount of minutes, and there's no Nicholas Batum. So I think Marcus Morris is really a great play here. Nazir Little as well. We talked about him getting a lot of minutes. Sadiq Bey, another guy that's priced way up on DraftKings that has not seen his price tag increased over here on FanDuel. So I think those are some of my top small forward options, as well as Diallo we talked about on the Detroit Pistons with them dealing with injuries. He's a phenomenal play. So just a ton of options here in this mid-range, low-priced range on FanDuel. They just have not priced these guys up enough. So I tend to think I'd be getting a lot of them in my lineup to the point guard position. Trae Young, LaMelo Ball, Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard, Ja Morant. I kind of skip over some of those guys we just went past. Jalen Brunson, big bump up in usage with their being shorthanded Dallas. I think he could be an intriguing option. Peyton Pritchard we talked about. Now that there being no Marcus Smart, I think becomes a phenomenal value option as well. At 6'2", he's a little bit harder to click over here on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. Jordan Clarkson gets a bump up with there being no Donovan Mitchell. So yeah, I mean, there's a guy at every position here on FanDuel that's priced pretty respectably and has reasoning as to why you could be playing him. So I feel like you should be able to make an entire lineup on FanDuel where you love everyone in your lineup. Similar to DraftKings with these COVID slates, honestly, I've been having a hard time creating lineups where I just don't absolutely love everyone in my lineup because it's kind of been that easy, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of getting the value plays in your lineup that absolutely smash, and the scoring has been ridiculously high. So you might do good on a typical night when you look at your score and you go, oh, typically I would do really good there. But with all this crazy high scoring, you really, really need a phenomenal score. LeVert or Brunson on DK, that's tough, man. That is tough because they're priced in different price ranges. For upside at his respective price tag, I would go with Jalen Brunson because he's only 7'9". I mean, Karis LeVert's priced all the way up to 9'1" now. I think Karis LeVert's a phenomenal play still. I just think Jalen Brunson could still, Karis LeVert could go out there and put up 60, and Jalen Brunson could still go out there and put up 50. But I like both the plays a lot. I don't know. It's very difficult to answer those type of questions when they're priced in two different price ranges. It kind of makes it difficult on me. So here's Joshua. Of course, as soon as I say that, he gives me one where they're the same price, Reddish or Diallo, and that's a really tough question because they're both the exact same price tag, and I really like both of them. So Reddish and Diallo, both 6'2". I like Desmond Bane. I really like these three guys in this price range. Reddish, Diallo, Desmond Bane. They all get a bump up. They're all 6'2". Reddish would be my answer there because the Atlanta Hawks are much more short-handed. I do like Diallo quite a bit, but Reddish would be my answer there because, the Hawks are just that much short-handed. They don't have Bogdanovic now. They had Bogdanovic last game. You take him out of the equation, and Cam Reddish's usage is going to go up even more. So Cam Reddish is grading out as the better play of those two for me. However, Diallo does grade out as a pretty phenomenal play himself. Just not quite as good of a play as Cam Reddish because of that. How would you rank Bane's Reddish Diallo? I would go Reddish number 1. Diallo number 2. And Bane number 3, I believe. I love Bane as a play as well. It's just the fact of the matter is there's more guys out on the Hawks and the Detroit Pistons, so that's kind of factored into my projections, and my projections do like those guys a little bit more than Desmond Bane. But Desmond Bane's in a really good fantasy point environment in that Lakers game. Should be a lot of scoring to go on there. To be honest with you, I'm having a hard time finding Bane. And I don't know why, because I know he's up here. He's got to be up here. He's Yeah, but I'd still go with that order. Kobe White or Reddish DK. Reddish, and it's not even close. Brian says Ja, Duarte, Reddish, LeBron, Garza, Pritchard, Marcus Morris Sr., Monk on DK. That sounds pretty good to me, man. That sounds like a solid lineup. That's a bunch of guys we went over that we like, so certainly does sound good. All right, guys, but I'm probably going to get out of here. I got to update my core plays, my projections, and answer all the questions from my premium members in the Discord chat. If you would like to become a KJK DFS premium member, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/KJK_DFS. I will go ahead and put this in the chat box for you guys. If you do want to become a premium content member, check it out. And I'll get an email. You won't be able to access my sheets right away because I have to put a lock on them and stuff for security reasons. Obviously, I don't want random people getting into the sheets and changing the data and being trolls and all that stuff. So I do have a bunch of safety precautions. But once you sign in, I'll get a notification. I'll send you a message, welcome you to the team. Then you can become a KJK DFS Premium Content member. Also, don't forget to check out the sponsor of the program, Parlay Play. Sign up using the promo code KJK003 or my link in the description and in the chat box now. Appreciate you guys all tuning in to the live stream today. Wish you all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one. Good luck tonight, guys. Peace.